back to our studios in Abuja. We've got Ismail Ahmed, a member of the APC. He joins us from there. Morning, and thank you for joining us. Well, as you heard, Nigerians are waiting. Give us your impression about all of this. Do you think that, what, are we expecting too much when we say we're waiting?
Hello, good morning, and thank you for having me, Chamberlain. Well, I think the expectations is quite high and it's enormous, and in some cases you would say justifiably so, for the fact that for the last 16 years Nigerians have been living under very hemorrhaging conditions. Many things have gone wrong, so many sectors have rotted, especially in the last 6 years. So the expectations are quite high, and Nigerians for the first time have seen the power and the sovereignty that they could have in changing an incumbent government, which has never happened in the political history of this country. So the expectations are quite high, and I'm sure the incoming administration, led by a very humble and a man of integrity, who has built a reputation for the last 4 decades of being disciplined and decisive, would try as much as possible to live up to the realistic part of those expectations.
Are you beginning to separate what is realistic and what isn't? I think I should begin to ask you, what isn't realistic?
Well, of course, we know that there are realistic expectations, of course, of any government, what a government can do. There are, of course, unrealistic expectations. I've heard people say things like, you know, the dollar is going to come back to $1 to 1 naira, you know, immediately after we take over government. Of course, those are unrealistic terms, because these are things that would have to go through a lot of processes. But one thing I'm absolutely certain of is that the government is going to hit the ground running. We have a very capable team. We have a very capable ticket that have won the election, and they are very realistic, and they have experience, because some of the president-elect has been in power before, even though under different circumstances. But he understands the situation on ground right now. He understands the dynamics that is involved. He has a very capable team around him, and they have been perusing through the issues and the conditions in which the country is in right now. Even though when we started running for this election back in 2014, you know, the oil was about $100 per barrel. It's now below $50, about $50. So a lot of things have changed. That's not to dampen any expectations that the incoming administration would be having, but it is to say that there are realistic parts, and of course, you know, there are unrealistic parts of expectations. So we will be meeting the realistic part of the expectations.
Now, some people will say that, you know, some of the things that haven't changed is defections. You know, politicians always see an opportunity in something, and if they think it's not going to favor them, they most likely will switch to the other side. And we've seen plenty of that happening. People say, how are you going to manage, first of all, the number of people, you know, who want to always be with the party in government, and also ensure that at the end of the day, you're not overcrowded with managing those set of people before you begin to think about the people who voted you into power?
Believe me, the absolute concentration of the incoming administration is on the electorate, not the politicians. The politicians are just, what, 10% of the whole populace. So the concentration is on the electorate, and right now that's what we are concentrating on, how to deliver on the electoral promises that has been made, not how to share positions. It's not about sharing posts or positions, it's about posting the shares of Nigerians collectively in the Nigerian project. So it is disheartening, quite honestly, because I, for example, as young as I am, I've been in opposition for the last 12 years, since 2003, and I have never wavered. I have never joined the ruling party, so to speak. And because the whole idea is to make sure that there is an alternative whenever there is a government in authority, then there's an alternative, so that it keeps the people in authority on their toes and reminds them that power truly belongs to the people. But when you see this kind of defections immediately afterwards, although you cannot legally stop it, but the whole idea is not so that, because when you see these things, is disheartening in a way that people are just interested in government, not political parties.
Well, in the
it's disheartening because we would want to see a very viable opposition.
Well, very say, Ismail, in the midst of all of this, the task ahead should be the focus of this administration, and you would agree that Nigerians are so impatient that they need everything that has been promised as quickly as possible. We have your lawyer colleague here, and we're talking about power. What do you think this incoming administration can do to help at least assuage the plight of Nigerians in the power sector?
Well, I think the power has always been an issue in this country, and I think at the last count we know that about $16 billion has been spent on power generation or distribution, and then there's been this issue of privatization, changing the name from NEPA to PHCN, you know, all whatnot. But the president-elect has maintained throughout the campaign stumps that power is one of the cardinal issues he's going to be focusing on. Some of these things you may not know totally, absolutely what is going on until you get into office. But we are fairly appreciative of the fact that what you need to stop first and foremost is the leakages and the cesspit of corruption that the power reform has turned out to be, and then you try to fix it. What is already good or what has been done that is good that can be built upon, I'm sure the incoming administration will build upon it. What needs to be changed, it will be looked upon by the experts in the field, and then the necessary steps will be taken.
Mr. Adegboruwa, this question is for you. I do recall that one of the days we're looking through one of the papers, and they had as their headline, for APC, winning was the easy part. And, you know, of course, you know how winning came to them. It definitely wasn't an easy task. But for them to be able to say that, it means that the task ahead is even much greater than winning. How do you see, you know, the party navigating the landmines, especially the political landmines that could be in the way of, you know, delivering the deliverables, as it were?
Well, thank you, Mark. Well, first of all, is to correct this impression that there are realistic goals and there are unrealistic ones. Nigerians are waiting. We just want to give time for the president-elect to settle. I have a copy of the manifesto of APC. I have a copy of his covenant of the president-elect. We'll begin to approach the courts as time goes on.
Bit by bit?
Bit by bit. If we begin to hear these stories. Oh, I'm serious.
It's a promise.
I'm telling you the truth, sir. We're not here for jokes.
What would you be going to court
No, let's be serious and face what we're here for governance. We have promised people change. If you see the kind of confidence Nigerians have in the leadership that is currently waiting to take over government, it's so much. And we can't squander that confidence by this kind of tantrums of saying they are realistic, they are unrealistic. It's realistic for the president-elect to make a promise that 35% of his appointments will go to women. It's realistic for the president-elect to say that I'm going to do an amendment to the Land Use Act to ensure that I create freehold and opportunities for people to use land for development, not this way in which governors have taken land to become economic means of generating IGR. So let's not go into that. Every promise made by APC, made by the president-elect, they are realistic, and we hold them onto it to the extent of testing them in the law court. Now, talking about navigating the political terrain, we talked about change. If you watch the Jonathan administration, it's a government of committees, and you see, if you get to Aso Rock, you see so many of those reports that have gathered dust. So,
well, I thought they said that that's the way government is run. The late
no,
president said so.
That's why we are talking about change. That's why we voted for change, so that government will not be run that way, in which you just set up committees and they make fine recommendations, or Rosanye committee, all manner of committees, and none of them is being implemented. Political reform of ways. This political reform of confab never saw the light of the day until the president was booted out. So what this present regime has is that there's a lot of goodwill that he has inherited through the promises he made to people. Secondly is that a lot of paid work, a lot of office paperwork committees have been done to bring about change in the nation. So he should go back and use his campaign promises, use the APC manifesto, use the constitution and those reports to take us forward. And by now, it's like in the universities, let me for instance, people come to apply to become vice chancellor. And then one day I discovered that a stranger from another university was invited in the process. It was then I discovered that they have what they call a search team. The governing council of every university has a search team to look beyond the university environment, whether they can get candidates from other universities, from abroad, to come and lead the university. And that's what APC should be doing now. It's not about lobbying. By now, having been in opposition for this long, they should have a ready cabinet. It's too late in the day to be telling us that we are shopping or that we are waiting. Nigerians can't wait beyond December. And that's the target we have set. Take over in May.
December?
December 2015. You take over in May 29, and then set up your cabinet. By December, we should see dividends of democracy running across the land.
What can they possibly, what can be done?
No, the president said, look, I listened to the president-elect on this channel's television with Shehu. I listened to him. It's not that them said. I listened to him, General Muhammadu Buhari. And Shehu told him and said, look, the cost of oil across the land is going down. What are you going to do to generate income? He said, yes, we know. We have to diversify agriculture. And that's what he should do. Rather than telling us that at the time they were campaigning, oil was $100, now it's $50. That's not what we want to hear now. We knew that one, that this price was going down. So the president had told us that he was going to go through alternative means of strengthening agriculture, strengthening all other minerals within the country to generate income. So it will not be an excuse to say that price of dollar is going down.